Welcome everybody, I'm Joshino and today let's talk about the new prototype map for Paladins, and that is Sierra. What does Sierra mean? It means a long jagged mountain chain, and originates from the Latin serra, which means saw. I did not know that, so maybe it's given you all a little insight. And also interestingly, through my gaming life there have been quite a few games published by Sierra Entertainment, and I never made the connection between that mountain logo that was on. Basically they have like a jagged 3 sets of mountains as their logo, and they did Half-Life 1 and 2 and things like that. And Sierra Leone country also means mountain lion, so fun factoids there. Why is this important? Well, the theme of the map is basically a little village or city sort of thing carved into the side of a mountain. Now the mountain itself isn't exactly jaggedy, and there aren't any textures because it's a prototype map. It's got those very flat like test textures and things like that, and test objects in there, but you can tell that a lot of the map is carved out of the mountainside because there's a big grey texture and it's massive, and the houses sort of slope into it, and there's also a tunnel in one point of the mountain. What's quite interesting about this is thinking about lore-wise. The newest map, Brightmarsh, was given and specifically was focused on Pip's home and giving Pip some backstory. Now it depends whether hi-rez make maps with any lore in mind or not, but this is quite interesting because it could be Barrack's potential home. Obviously Barrack is a dwarf, perhaps he's come from some sort of mining community, something like the Mines of Moria, and honestly I could really envisage this map as being some sort of dwarven settlement inside a mountain and having some of the mining in there as well. I think that'd look really cool. I think that could be one of the best themed maps out there. That would be pretty damn epic. But again, no prototype map is set in stone. A bit of a pun there because this one actually is, but it may never see the light of day, so it might be that hi-rez make a map and then put some lore into it afterwards, as Brightmarsh did used to be called Atrium and looked a lot like a Roman bathhouse type thing, but they retextured it and made it into Pip's home. But I could see this one easily translating into a dwarven city or citadel, or like either high fantasy or like steampunky city would be really cool. So the map itself, design wise, shares a lot of philosophies most of the other maps have. It isn't like Sewer, which basically had a load of choke points, which had no flank routes, which went a bit against the norm. The map's almost split up into 3 sections, the main capture point in the middle, a push area on both sides depending whether you're attacking and defending, and a point room on either side that's separated from each of those sections. On the main point it is pretty damn open, and there's a flank on either side, a flank route. The first flank route, the one that's closest and the quickest I think, is a tight corridor, so it's a quick route but also has a lot of risk if you're going in there and straight to the point, as especially projectile champions can shoot down into that corridor or around there and inflict quite a lot of damage. On the other side, I think it's longer to get there, but you can go up into a tower where you can fire down onto people on the point. And generally this area has more options regarding flanking and verticality and looking over the point. So I think there's a bit of a trade-off. You either get there quickly, but you are a bit more vulnerable, or you get there slower, but you'll have more vantage points to look at the capture zone. And the point itself is pretty damn open. There's not really much cover, but there's cover on either side for attackers going onto the point. There's like boxes put around, and obviously the 2 flanking sides. One side has basically just little columns going into the mountainside, and the other one has that massive tower. At the very top of the tower there's actually a little bit of the rock carved out where you can get into. I don't think it's actually that good. You could only just perch on it, and if you move at all then you get knocked off. And if somebody does notice you up there, then they can probably easily pick you off up there. So it's a bit more of a fun zone, or just a bit of a derpy thing. I don't know whether it'd be actually used properly. But below that is a flat square of roofing. And now this is pretty damn good because it allows a portion of the champion pool. I don't think you can get that up there any other way. I couldn't find a way to get up there. But things like Drogos, Grover, Evie, Droxus, basically most of the flanks, and all the other champions that can go upwards can get on top of there, and it's a great vantage point to shoot down. But also because it rings around the back of a big tower block, you can stand behind there and escape, as well as doing a lot of poke damage onto the point. And having that high ground advantage, we'll come back to the Obi-Wan Kenobi scenario again. So once around this roof and in this flanking zone, there's a lot of areas to duel as well. Like there's a staircase going up to the main room below this square, where you shoot down on the bottom of the tower, the first level, and there's lots of fights that can happen around there or on the other side, around the staircases, and both lead into a bit of a maze sort of thing with walls And I think this 3-story thing is good on all levels. You've got the damage dealers at the bottom, you've got flankers going in trying to disrupt those damage dealers, and then you've got 2 flankers maybe dueling on top or around it, and it's actually quite a lot of fun around that tower, and just seems to work really nicely. The next section, so once you've captured the payload, is basically pretty open in general. It's pretty wide, but there's sets of walls that sort of interlock and form quite a lot of cover, so you can hold different sections of this path. And the distance to travel here is quite long. It is almost naturally split between getting past each of the wall sections and the bends, so you can defend each bend potentially. And I do wonder whether it might be a little too long. And it does seem to favour the defenders being able to hold each of the points with the time given to make a push. Not so much that there's a clear advantage between attackers and defenders. Both sides have a lot of cover because there's walls on each set of the sides, and the cover in the middle acts as cover for attackers on the first part of the push. But as it's such a long map, it's quite hard for a team to regroup and come back again and make much progress, which I think could frustrate things a bit like Ice Mines does, which is a very long map which most people don't like so much. When you do get to the point room though, and you've pushed it through that main zone, the general philosophy of most of the maps in the game plays out here. So there's a flank route on either side and a choke point in the center. Unlike Jaguar Falls though, and a few of the other maps, there's no sort of vertical attack area in the middle, the center push. It's basically just a tunnel and it's blocked off all around, and it's very tight within there. It definitely can be a little bit difficult to push through there, and there can be a bit of a stalemate between either side trying to get through that, especially if there's projectile champions defending it. But because there are 2 flank routes, and on either side there is some elevation and cover, you can come around and break up the enemy damage dealers that are maybe holding you there and break that stalemate. And like all the other maps, there's an elevation on the spawn point. Unless you're a champion that can go upwards and has some vertical movement, I don't think you can actually get onto that spawn point platform. So people are a little bit more safe, but you can still be shot from the bottom there with not too much difficulty because people can see up. And also the elevation on either side of the flank routes isn't very high at all, it just gives you a slight bit of elevation compared to what the spawn point is. But the distance from when you get through the tunnel to the point itself isn't far at all, so once you have actually broken through that stalemate of the tunnel, then it's not so hard for the attackers to take through, especially if some people are harassing the spawn room. I wonder whether there needs to be some more cover for the people coming out of the spawn, because there's no sort of blocks of things coming out, so you just run out of your spawn room door into a lot of fire. Anyway, that's pretty much the map covered in its design and philosophy, and I will say briefly, I do think this one sticks to a lot of the principles of the other maps, and for it does work quite well. The champions who are definitely going to like this map though are, first of all, Evie. She's obviously performing very well in this patch with the projectile change, but also because there's so many buildings that you can jump over the top of, you've got that verticality with the levels on the tower, and the map's pretty massive, so getting behind enemy lines and knocking people off their horses and disrupting the back lines is pretty damn important. And Evie can do that with quite a bit of immunity because of the reprieve legendary card going into the ice block being invulnerable and then being able to teleport away and being able to soar away as well. You can disrupt without being penalized too much, and you can get in and disrupt and get out again if you have all of your abilities on cooldown, unless the enemy really focused and grab you and stun you down or something and take you out. But then again, you're still disrupting the backline, and I think just generally flankers here will excel at disrupting this. I don't know if there's any specific champions elsewhere that really benefit from this map, but obviously flankers and champions that have the vertical movement will be able to use the top of the tower and be able to take advantage of some of the other elements of the map. And more highly mobile champions the better, I would say, because obviously the map's quite big, so it's going to favour people that can get in and out and get back again compared to the slower champions. Look at you, Torvald. Although actually there is a bit of an area to shoot people off the edge of the map with a Torvald, but it's still quite hard because you might hit them into the towers. Positives and negatives wise of this map, I think most of it is positive, maybe just lacking in a bit of cover for people coming out their spawn, for the defenders at the very last push. Maybe looking at the main push with having something on top as well, maybe rather not just the single tunnel, but it adds a bit of a flavour on the general formula that they've been using on most of the maps. It is a bit like Stone Keep with the tower, but with the 3 levels it does change it up a little bit. But just generally, I've had a lot of fun playing this map. Whether or not it is competitively sound, it's quite the playbox for flanking champions especially, to have a lot of free movement in. I do hope actually that this one might make its way into our main game in live and get some textures and really get spruced up. And again, a Dwarven city would be pretty damn cool, and maybe Barrick's home, or a site where Barrick maybe fought or something happened in his past. Also, a lot of people do seem to be playing this currently, at least on the EU queue. I get a game pretty much as quickly as I get a casual game, which says quite a lot, although I don't think there is actually any matchmaking. But worth mentioning is you still do get gold and experience from playing this mode, and you can also level up your masteries for your champions. So if you want to play Evie and you want to master her up, go on this map and insta-lock the Evie, because you're going to have a lot of fun with her, in Obi 53 at the very least. Anyway, what does everybody else think of this map if they have played it? Do you hope that it makes it into the queue as well, or do you not quite agree with me? Maybe you don't really like this map. If not Barrick's home, could you see it being anybody else's home? Perhaps Inara's home, because it makes sense. She's a rock person, so she's probably come out of a mountain. Why not? That could be another backstory for this map. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe for more of my content, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, Joshino.